Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodha Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodha Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodha Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodha Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodha Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajacharya Astottara Sarasri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Iskcon's Foundercharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajacharya Astottara Sarasri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakun Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Ganga Mai Ki Yamuna Mai Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulsi Maharani Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. Gaura Premanande.
Hare Krishna. We are very fortunate. Today we have His Grace Swarup Damodar Prabhu. So, Prabhuji is the temple president of Iskcon Durban, and I also stay there. So, and also Prabhuji is regional secretary there, and Prabhuji is very senior disciple of His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj, and Prabhuji sometimes few months of the year he travels with Maharaj also in India, Mauritius and other countries. And also Prabhuji has, I saw there when I was living in South Africa. So Prabhuji has very wonderful relations with all the all the sannyasis and gurus. He had a very nice relation with our Guru Maharaj, and also he does secretarial work to His Holiness Indradumna Swami Maharaj for South Africa, and Kadam Kanan Maharaj, and Bibi Govind Swami Maharaj. Everyone, I saw that all the sannyasis loves Prabhuji. He invites to everyone and he makes schedule for preaching to all the sannyasis. And so Prabhuji and Mataji came here for Ayurvedic treatment for 3 weeks. Mataji also runs a very important department, that is kitchen department. There is not a, we don't get cooks like India. So sometimes when there is no one, Mataji herself cooks for everyone. And Prabhuji also, in spite of busy schedule, every week he cooks for everyone, for 50, 60 devotees for every week. So Prabhuji and Mataji will be here for 3 weeks. So we will get their wonderful association. So we will welcome Prabhuji and Mataji by one time chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama,
Hare
Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for receiving us so warmly and hospitably here in Ujjain. This morning we have been asked to speak on the 13th chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This chapter, I'm not sure if it was described at the start of the chapter, holds a very, very special and heartfelt significance for all Iskcon devotees. In that it is this chapter that our Srila Prabhupada presented the last purports of his manifest life. In his home in the Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan, we hear of how Srila Prabhupada was translating Srimad Bhagavatam practically a day or so before he actually passed away, right up until the very end. In videos and pictures, we see this most amazing, heart-rendering picture of Prabhupada lying on his bed in Vrindavan, and His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami very close to Prabhupada, holding the microphone, dictaphone microphone, right up to Prabhupada's mouth. And next to Jayadvaita Maharaj is Pradyumna Prabhu. Prabhupada used to affectionately call him Panditji, his Sanskrit editor, and Pradyumna Prabhu would be reciting the Sanskrit verses and then reading the commentaries of the previous acharyas. And then they would pause, and Prabhupada would, with great strain and difficulty, Srila Prabhupada would then speak his Bhakti Vedanta purports. So as Srila Prabhupada once commented that his greatest contribution to humanity were his, anybody knows? What was, in Prabhupada's estimation, his greatest contribution? His books. And the effort he placed in Srimad Bhagavatam points to the fact that his most important literary contribution was his translation and commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, this very last chapter of the Bhagavatam holds very special significance. Very, very special significance. And so this chapter should capture very deep interest from all of us. For me, coming from South Africa, Durban, South Africa particularly, this chapter also holds great importance. Towards the end of this chapter, Srila Prabhupada actually speaks about the Hare Krishna movement in Durban, South Africa. I don't mean to be proud of that fact, but it's there, and it's something that inspires us to reach up to what Prabhupada had presented. I'll just quickly read what Srila Prabhupada says in his purport to the 60th verse. Prabhupada says, "The value of Krishna consciousness, however, will gradually be very much appreciated. For instance, in an article about the temple of the Hare Krishna movement in Durban, South Africa, the Durban Post reported," and Prabhupada quotes what they say, "All the devotees here are very active in the service of Lord Krishna, and the results are obvious to see: happiness, good health, peace of mind, and the development of all good qualities." Unquote. This is the nature of Vrindavan. Harava bhaktasya kuto mahan guna. Without Krishna consciousness, happiness is impossible. One may struggle, but one cannot have happiness. So this is the nature of Vrindavan. This is the nature of Krishna consciousness. It inspires this disposition: happiness, good health, peace of mind, and the development of all good qualities. So therefore, I am so grateful to somehow have been moved to come to Iskcon Ujjain, to this wonderful tirtha that also exemplifies the statement of Srila Prabhupada. In just the few hours that I've been here, it's so evident to see the service attitude of the devotees. not in an obligatory way, not in a extraneous way where they feel compelled, but naturally they're so happy to serve. They have peace of mind. Of course, I don't know about the managers. Managers never have peace of mind. Yeah, peace of mind is a luxury. Mm? But just as Srila Prabhupada once was having a discussion with His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj was expressing to Prabhupada in frustration, Srila Prabhupada, I'm so much in anxiety about this and about that, so much in anxiety that I cannot even chant my rounds. And Prabhupada said, me too. I also, so much of anxiety I can't chant my rounds. But yes, I'm so grateful to be here, to witness by y'all's inspiration how happy and peaceful and how wonderfully y'all are developing all good qualities. So yes, we'll read and discuss verse 21 of chapter 13. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tat tat vatsan pritak nitva tat tat goshte niveshya sam tat tat atma abhavat rajan tat tat sadma pravishtavan tat tat vatsan pritannitva tat tat vatsan pritannitva tat tat goshte niveshyasa tat tat goshte niveshyasa tat tat atma bhavat rajang tat tat atma bhavat rajang tat tat sadma pravishtavan tat tat sadma pravishtavan tat tat vatsan pritannitva tat tat goshte niveshyasa tat tat atma bhavat rajam tat tat sadma pravishtavan tat tat vatsan pritannitva tat tat goshte niveshyasa tat tat atma bhavad rajam tat tat sadma pravishtavan. Vaishnavis. Tat tat vatsan. The cows which belonged to different cows, pritak, separately, nitva, bringing, tat tat goshte, to their respective cowsheds, niveshya, entering, sa, Krishna, tat tat atma, as originally different individual souls. Abhavat, he expanded himself in that way. Rajan, O King Parikshit, Tatat Sadma, their respective houses, Pravishtavan, entered. Krishna thus entered everywhere. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Prabhupada. O Maharaj Parikshit, Krishna, who had divided himself as different cows and also as different cowherd boys, entered different cow sheds as the cows, and then different homes as different boys. Purport. Krishna had many, many friends, of whom Sri Dama, Sudama, and Subal were prominent. Thus Krishna himself became Sri Dama, Sudama, and Subal, and entered their respective houses with their respective calves. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruvai Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prashnaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine, Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Paschatyade Shatarine. Krishna has so many friends, an unlimited number of friends, and here just three prominent ones are listed: Sri Dama, Sudama, and Subal. And as I was reading this last night, it dawned on me that herein there's a wonderful hint of Krishna's personality, his personalism, and his very deep personal approach to everyone he relates with and everything he engages in. Everything about Krishna is full of personality and personalism. Some of us here have Facebook. Well, sometimes in audiences you have to ask who doesn't have Facebook, and most audiences, no one will raise their hands. So many people have Facebook, and we receive what you call friend requests, or we may send friend requests. And after some months or years, if you look at your number of friends, you may suddenly see, oh, I have 500 friends. I have 1,000 friends. Some people reach the cap or the limit of 5,000 friends. Because nobody could possibly have more than 5,000 friends, right? But of those 1,000 or 2,000 or even, amazingly enough, 5,000 friends, how many of those persons on that screen do we know intimately? Can we really count as friends? Because ultimately, what is a friend? Of course, that is a big topic. But in a nutshell, a friend is someone who you know intimately and who knows you intimately. And even a little further than that, someone who is thinking of you constantly or often, and you are thinking of often. So this is what a friend is. So on Facebook, even in our personal life, how many people, according to this brief description, can we count as friends that can fit that description? But with Krishna, we find, we see how he relates. He knows everyone so intimately, very intimately, down to the minutest detail. And in this pastime, an amazing opulence of Krishna is manifested, how he expands himself to replicate each and every one of his cowherd boyfriends, down to that fine, minute detail, not just in appearance, but even in mannerisms, even in the way they speak, their movement of hand gestures, their affinities, what they like to eat, what they like to hear, what they like to see, how they sit, how they sleep. Everything Krishna was able to replicate down to the minutest, finest detail. So through this pastime, we get an opportunity to appreciate how aware Krishna is of all of us. We get to appreciate how personal he is. And we can appreciate personalism to the highest degree in this pastime. We know Srila Prabhupada, he came to the West. One of his main missions, as given by himself in his pranam mantra, is to eradicate the world of impersonalism. And this is what it ultimately boils down to know Krishna in detail and to know each other with intimacy. And not just to relegate Krishna and everyone else to just oneness, to not appreciate their personality. Chaitanas Chaitananam. The Katha Upanishad describes that Krishna, we are conscious and Krishna is conscious. But the difference is that Krishna is conscious of everyone to the finest, minutest detail. So coming back to the verse, we find, interestingly, the way Srila Prabhupada translated it, he uses the word different 5 times in one verse. Krishna, who divided himself as different cows, as different cowherd boys, entered different cow sheds, and then different different homes as different boys. So here again, earlier we said Krishna manifested the amazing opulence of oneness, where he was able to replicate himself in the forms of everyone, or expand himself replicating into everyone. And here we find that Krishna is manifesting another amazing opulence through difference. Through difference. That even though it is the one Krishna that's now expanded into these multitudes of cowherd boys, they are all different, but the same. Achintya, Beda, Abeda, Tattva. They are Krishna. There's that oneness, but that oneness is manifest in a different way. In a different way. So to some, the concept of oneness or similarity or sameness is very wonderful, very important. It's actually a relief to some people to be all the same, to see uniformity. But for Krishna, we see he really deeply appreciates difference. He very much appreciates the concept of difference. Why is that? Because it gives him the opportunity to engage in relationship, a personal relationship with others. And he relishes relationship more than anything else. Without relationship, there is no opportunity to enjoy, isn't it? Of course, sometimes you may think, when you're really hungry and somehow the head pujari gifts you with a nice place of prasad and you think, oh, I hope no one else comes, I can enjoy. But that feeling is fleeting and it's external. Suppose you have all the wealth in the world all the opulence in the world, but you are all alone in the world. Can you appreciate your opulence? Can you appreciate your wealth? No, it'll be so frustrating because you can't share it with anyone. You can't relate with absolutely anyone. So this is Krishna. He is Anandamaya Bhyasat. He is pleasure-seeking by his very nature. And we also have the same pleasure-seeking tendency. Once Srila Prabhupada was asked by a reporter, what is the purpose of life? Srila Prabhupada answered, the purpose of life is to enjoy. Is to enjoy. You don't hear that answer much, right? It's simply to enjoy. So Krishna's purpose of his existence is to enjoy. And yes, he is Atmaram, he can enjoy within himself. But to experience the depth of pleasures, the unlimited depth of pleasures, he expands himself, Eko Bahu Shyam, into so many forms. And through those forms, his expansions, his incarnations, and then further into his parts and parcels, the Jivatmas, he experiences unlimited bliss and happiness. So this is Krishna's program, simply to enjoy. So this difference, this concept of difference, it's relishable. Variety is the spice of life, it's described. But then how, we can ask the question, how is Krishna enjoying himself in this pastime? It's really himself that he's expanding into the form of these cows, these calves and these cowherd boys. So where he knows that this is himself. How can someone play with themselves and get enjoyment? It doesn't make sense. So we find the answer to this doubt in the following verses that will come up. We find that the reaction of the mothers of the cows, the mothers of those calves, we find it in the reaction of the mothers of those cowherd boys, how they then began to relate to their so-called sons who were actually Krishna. We find it there. We find that although they didn't know that these boys were actually Krishna, they really took these boys still as their own sons. But from within them, they expressed a depth of love that they never showed before. It was unbelievable how much of love emanated from them just by seeing their sons, who were actually Krishna. It was so much coming out of them. This is the nature of loving Krishna, that it is ever expanding. Actually, a deep, cherished lamentation of all the elder gopis of Vrindavan is that they were thinking, how can we be like Mother Yashoda and have Krishna as our son? And the same with the cows. They were thinking they also want to have Krishna as their cows. And through this pastime, the Lord fulfilled their desire. You all know how nice it is that when you are able to fulfill a desire of someone you love, right? How much of happiness that gives you. So the same with Krishna. He got so much of happiness seeing the increased pleasure, the increased happiness of these elder gopis of Vrindavan. This is what happened. So Krishna was relishing in this way. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada said that the closest we can experience pure love in this world is that of the mother's love for her little child. But it's still just a little glimpse. It can't give you even a fraction of the full picture, because real love is found only in relationship with Krishna. Only in relationship with Krishna. Just like we have communities and we get happiness from each another in some way. We get happiness from our family. We get happiness in things around us. But the Vrindavan consciousness is the devotees, they only get happiness, or they derive happiness only if Krishna is in the center of their lives. Only if Krishna is in the center, or Krishna's pleasure is in the center. Of course, this now is not meant to inspire any form of neglectfulness, that we don't want parents in our community to every morning leave their apartments, husbands or wives to leave their apartments and just come to the temple and go back in the evening, neglecting all their household responsibilities, taking care of children and everything. That would be that would be very immature. That is not the understanding of what Vrindavan consciousness is. It really means to do everything that we have to do, our responsibilities, but in relation to Krishna. This is what Vrindavan consciousness is. That we measure everything we're doing by whether or not it is giving pleasure to Krishna or not. This is the measure of Vrindavan consciousness. Sometimes we may find that even our external direct activity, even worshipping the deity directly, cooking for the Lord directly, dressing the Lord directly, may not even be in Vrindavan consciousness. It may externally be there, but if it's not really for the pleasure of Krishna, then it is not Vrindavan. Just like once in the early 70s, after the devotees acquired Bhaktivedanta Manna, a few of the lady pujaris got together and put their few children into a playpen, like a little fenced up area, and they went off to do some deity worship. So for maybe it was a short while, an hour or two, they did that. And when Srila Prabhupada heard about that, he got very, very upset. And he wrote one of them a letter. And in one excerpt in the letter, Srila Prabhupada said, very importantly, child worship is more important than deity worship. Quite a statement. Child worship is more important. That in the context of serving directly Krishna, we are neglecting those connected to Krishna, and that is not good. That is not good at all. So yes, we must see all our relationships with devotees in relationship with Krishna. That we are engaging in a relationship with a part and parcel of Krishna. Someone who is very dear to Krishna, someone who Krishna loves, someone who has been created for Krishna's pleasure only. And so when we actually and deeply understand this fact, when we immerse all our actions, all our statements with this understanding that everyone exists for Krishna's pleasure, then we'll understand what real love of Krishna is through the service and relationship of each other. Once at an airport in America, Srila Prabhupada, one devotee noticed another devotee mother holding her child and tending to her child very lovingly. And this devotee pointed out to Srila Prabhupada that, Srila Prabhupada, by serving this child, by loving this child, will that help us serve and love Krishna? And Srila Prabhupada said no. By serving and loving Krishna, you will understand how to serve and love everyone else. Again, it does not mean an immature reaction of neglecting everyone and just serving Krishna. No, it's by seeing everything and everyone in relationship with Krishna. Everything. So we see, we are all different. We are all different. We have different natures. We have different personalities. And thus Krishna engages with us in those different ways to relish the different flavors of relationship. We know there are 5 primary rasas and 7 secondary rasas, but they combine, they adjust in different ways to have an unlimited way or unlimited ways of approaching and engaging with Krishna, and vice versa, Krishna relating with us as well. So we celebrate this difference. Even in the material world, we find there is nothing but difference, right? Have scientists found 2 grains of sand that are identical? No, you won't find it. Even materially speaking, there is full of difference. Full of difference. So the same with spiritual relationships and spiritual personalities. Everyone is different. So like this, we can appreciate that Krishna relishes difference, and we should honor the differences that we have with others. Not differences in a sense of argumentation, conflict, but that, yes, this person is different from me. Let me honor this person's difference. And let me not put away my difference from that person to become like him. Just because I see that person pleases Krishna in that way, let me become like that person. No, that is not what Krishna wants of us. That through our unique personality, we find our way to please Krishna, as guided by our spiritual master. I had this very vivid experience one with my own spiritual master, where I was looking up to one of his personal assistants who was very expert in serving him. Every detailed thing this Prabhuji had it down. He knew exactly, and you could see Maharaj was pleased. So I started doing the same thing in the same way. And as soon as I started doing that, Maharaj said, no, be yourself. Yes, he's very good, but I want you to be yourself as well. Of course, that doesn't mean we just make a mess of our service, because that's who I am, Prabhu. No. We do it we get inspired by another person's expertise, we get inspired by another person's quality, but we do it ourselves. Krishna doesn't want photocopies. He doesn't want photocopies of everyone, or of himself even. He doesn't want that. He wants us to be ourselves, and from our position, from our nature, serve to the best of our abilities. This is what Krishna wants. This is Vrindavan consciousness. So we find Lord Brahma, he is bewildered. Not only Brahma, we find later on, even Lord Balaram is bewildered. Lord Brahma, of course, he's described to be the topmost engineer, the secondary creator of this universe. And he knows everything. I mean, he's got 4 heads. You've got to know something. He actually knows everything. His very body is composed, not like how our bodies are composed, but his body has basically one substance, and that is intelligence. On a certain level, he's even Sarvagya, he's even omniscient, it's described. Not omniscient like Krishna is, as we cannot see here, but he also has omniscience, but within the boundaries of this small universe. We know that pastime in Dwaraka when Lord Brahma comes to visit Krishna, and then he realizes, oh, there's so many Krishnas. There's so many Brahmas. And I'm the smallest Brahma. I've only got 4 heads. So he realized, wow, there's so much more than what I know. But Lord Brahma, he's bewildered here for various reasons. One of the philosophical reasons why he's bewildered is because he knows that I know everything. I have seen everything because I am the creator of this entire universe. But what I haven't seen is exact replicas of the same thing. I've never experienced that. Like you won't find 2 grains of sand being the same. Lord Brahma knows that. So when he sees, I've taken these calves and these cowherd boys, I come back a moment later, they're exactly the same, no difference. Every eyelash, every strand of hair, everything is the same. This is bewildering him because this is something he has never experienced before. It's never experienced before. So this is Vimohan. Mohan, yes, it's bewildering, but when you get someone as realized, as knowledgeable, as all-knowing as Brahma, when they get bewildered, then it becomes Vimohan. The extreme bewilderment of Lord Brahma is taking place. And this is just a small spark of Krishna's potency to be able to do that. Yat yat vibhuti mat sattvam. It's just a small spark to bewilder one small Brahma. Now the question can arise, if Lord Brahma can be bewildered, then what about us? Where does that leave us? Of course, not in the sense, we all know every day who doesn't get bewildered. Who doesn't get bewildered? This is the bewildering existence we're in. But for Lord Brahma, if he gets bewildered, what will we think then? Lord Brahma is the head of our sampradaya. He's our Guru Maharaj, right? The Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. If the head of our sampradaya gets bewildered, we could easily lose faith, isn't it? And here we find he's getting bewildered. So what do we do? What do we do in this case? When we hear that someone that we highly respected or held up in the greatest of accolades, looked up to, fashioned our practices according to that person's behavior, and suddenly they get bewildered. What will happen to us? We may lose faith. And it has happened in our movement so many times, right? We can lose faith. And we find the same here. Yet we find our Sampradaya, has the name changed since this past time? We're just calling it the Madhva Gaudiya? No, it's still kept as Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Why is that? Because we understand by the teachings of the Acharyas that Lord Brahma is being engaged here. Engaged by the Lord's internal potency to display how, not only the fact that we are all fallible, that we are all tatashta, we are all marginal, to display to display how to respond to our own infallibility, or how to respond to others' infallibility. This is important. Who in the material world is infallible? That despite all the positions we may have, the awards and accolades we may have, we will always have the tendency towards infallibility. No one is perfect. But when someone does, after practicing service, Krishna consciousness, have some challenge, what do we do then? What do they do then? And we find with Lord Brahma a wonderful expression afterwards of being humbled. Not just being humbled, but being grateful for being humbled. And in the 14th chapter after this, we find the most amazing prayers that are celebrated, that are studied, that are imbibed by all the great devotees as the most exemplary manifestation of what a devotee should be, the devotee's consciousness. Tatte nukampam shushamikshamano. Such wonderful prayers come up. And this is someone who has been humbled, who has made a mistake but has been humbled. So being humbled is not a bad thing. Actually, Lord Brahma is appreciating it so much. So therefore, we find Lord Brahma is our founder of our Sampradaya. Not because of so many things that he did. Yes, but because he was taught at the very beginning, Krishna's first disciple in this universe, but because of how he responded to his mistake, his apparent mistake. So this is a very important lesson in this pastime. How to accept humility or a humbling experience, an embarrassment with grace, with gratitude, with respect, and something we can hold on to. Like this pastime, Lord Brahma holds on to as one of his most cherished experiences in his long existence. And he must have had so many experiences. It's going to happen for so many more trillions of years, right? How many years does Lord Brahma exist for? 311 trillion years. He's got about 165 more trillion years to go, right? Because our Lord, isn't it? Brahma is 50 years now or something. He's half his age. So he's got so many more experiences. But this one is the most cherished for him. And we can learn from that. So when we get humbled, when we fall into some lapse of Krishna consciousness or from Krishna consciousness, and we are humbled by our spiritual authorities, or anybody for that matter, we take it with grace. That yes, Krishna is intervening in our lives and he's humbling us. Because this is Krishna's daily occupation. There's that story that is told. The king asks a question, what is the daily occupation of God? And so many people answered the question, but it wasn't satisfactory. It wasn't really pleasing the king. So eventually one young boy came and he was asked the same question. What is the daily occupation of the Supreme Lord? And the young boy who was standing down in the assembly hall said to the king, if you have to ask me a question and I have to answer you something that you do not know, therefore I should be sitting on your seat and you should be sitting down. So we should exchange places. So to the king, you don't tell that to a king. If you really value your neck, you don't tell that to the king. So the king, being amused by the little child, said, okay. So he came down and the child went and sat on the throne. And now everyone's waiting for the answer. And they said, well, what is the answer? And the little boy said, yes, this is exactly the answer. That the daily occupation of God is to humble those in a high position, bring them down, and to raise those that are in a humbled position and raise them up. This is God's duty. This is God's daily occupation. So Brahma also, from the highest position, knowing everything, he's bewildered. And he was bewildered in such a grateful way. Such a grateful way. So whenever bewilderment comes, correction comes, embarrassment comes, a humbling experience comes, we take it with gratitude. Just like Lord Brahma. And who knows, we may in future also present heartfelt prayers of gratitude to Lord Krishna for our humbling experience. So we'll stop here now. Are there any comments or questions anyone has? It's already past time. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for the amazing class. You mentioned about Krishna appreciates the variety. And for the jivas, it's some may appreciate, for some it is very difficult to appreciate. Especially the differences of opinions, differences of nature, and things beyond our expectations. So, but the jiva is the nature which is same as Krishna, Sachidananda. So how to understand and how to improve on this quality of appreciating the differences?
Yeah. Sometimes having oneness is a relief, right? There's no arguments, there's no conflicts. It's a relief. Okay, many of you are not married. I'm not going to make brahmachari ashram jokes, especially when my wife is present in the audience. That's a bit dangerous to do, right? But if there's no conflict in a relationship, if there's no disagreement in the relationship, then in some ways it becomes very boring. It becomes very boring. You ask any husband and wife that. It becomes very boring. You find Krishna, even in his relationship with his wives in Dwaraka, he sometimes instigates a little conflict because he wants to relish a little bit. For husbands that are listening, please don't try and do that. It's a dangerous walking on thin ice there. But Krishna can do that. So Krishna appreciates this. So we should see that sometimes we should have the disposition, the foundational understanding, appreciating variety. This is important. That when we do experience difference, we should be able to kick in this understanding. Hey, yes, there's a difference coming up. Let me appreciate the other's point of view. Like it's sometimes said in counseling classes, counseling sessions, seek first to understand, then be understood. We hear that, but when it's actually facing us, it's very hard to activate that understanding, right? Seek first to understand. Hear the other person's point of view. Because in some way, that person's point of view is being inspired by Krishna. Whether it's Krishna's internal potency, Yoga Maya, or his external potency, Mahamaya, that understanding, that point of view is coming from Krishna. And it is being filtered through their conditioned consciousness. But ultimately, it's coming from Krishna. Ultimately. So we can appreciate that. We don't have to agree with it. We don't have to accept it, but we can at least appreciate it. We find with Srila Prabhupada in his engagement with the devotees, sometimes he would play the part of a theist and put forward arguments about the existence of God. And he'll ask his devotees to challenge it. And he'd engage in a debate. He relished it. And sometimes then he would take the other side and defeat his own. And we find that with Nimai, with Lord Chaitanya, he would do the same. If it was just a one-way street, very, very bland experience. Like for 3 weeks, I will be having a very bland experience of diet, I've been told. I was given one chance today, Vyasadeva Prabhu said, go and enjoy today, after that it's over. So yes, we must somehow every day wake up with an understanding that yes, I will encounter differences. Let me embrace it. Even on the level of the GBC, if any of you have attended GBC meetings, or any management meetings, if everyone's true and honest about their position, you'll find there's debate, there's argument, right? Srila Prabhupada said the GBC meetings, they must come every year, and one of the main points they must discuss over 3 days is, you know what Prabhupada said they must discuss? Unity in diversity. This is not a modern phrase. It's coming from a long time ago. Prabhupada said we must discuss how to understand this concept, unity in diversity. Experience it, engage in unity in diversity. So diversity is celebrated, but diversity is not appreciated when it creates difference, when it creates distance amongst devotees. If we can find a way to use our diversity to come closer together, this is unity. Just like you get a crossword puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle. Are all the pieces the same? But when they put together in a matching way, in the appropriate way, they become stronger. You can't separate it. But if all the pieces were the same, exact squares, you put it together, so easily to separate, isn't it? But when it's put together, fitting in according to each one's differences, then the bond is very much stronger. Then the bond is stronger. So yes, wake up every day with this consciousness. I'm going to experience the variety of differences, and let me celebrate it. Because through that celebration of everyone's differences with each other, we will become stronger together. Is that all right? All right, I think we should stop here. Thank you all so very much for having us here, and we look forward to your Sangha and association in service to Srila Prabhupada. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.